Christian. It's awesome to have you on. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I'm going to ask you just a few questions, and our goal here is to give other Medicare agents out there a small glimpse into a day in the life of a successful Medicare agent. So if you will tell us who you are, the name of your company, a little bit about what you do, and why you love it.
Yeah, great to be here, Celeste. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege and an honor, and I'm just happy to be here with you today. A little bit about me. I run a company called Christian Brindle Insurance Services, and we're an insurance agency that specializes in Medicare health plans, of course. We're located about 20 minutes outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, and Sandy, Utah. Nobody knows where Sandy, Utah is, so I just say Salt Lake City. But essentially, what we do and kind of our business model is, we specialize in Medicare. Like, we do a little bit of life insurance, but it's not our bread and butter.
Okay.
We started doing under 65 this year, but it's not where our bread is buttered. I got into the business when I was 20 years old. And so before me, like a lot of people that might be watching this, I'm sure your audience is familiar with a lot of the big name people in the Medicare industry today, like in the Facebook groups and those kind of things.
Right.
Kind of similar to a guy like a Justin Brock or maybe a Cody Askins. I started working with my dad because my dad had been a Medicare agent when I started for 25 years at that point. And so my dad had built up a large, pretty successful agency here in Utah that had been a very strong local presence for a long time. And so I came into the business learning from my dad. And from there, I just was soaking up everything that he taught me, and he kind of just basically walked me through how to build a business. And I started when I was 20, about to turn 21. I was joking, tell people I sold my first policy before I could buy a beer, and essentially from there, by the time I was 25 years old, I'd built up a 6-figure income.
Wow.
Without really spending any money at that point on my business. Like, it was pretty much all in the back of cold calling. I know that's something that we're going to be talking about.
That's
and
impressive.
Then, thank you. Yeah. I mean, and from there, I decided that, it was time for me to start innovating and kind of doing more different kind of things with my business other than just pounding the pavement. And so we started becoming incredibly active with our content creation, with our social media presence. And we started a podcast for people on Medicare about 2.5 years ago now. And it now has about 230 episodes at the time of me talking to you. And it's currently the #1 Medicare podcast for beneficiaries on the internet today. There's probably 50 of them.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And so that's kind of where I became really well known. And then we decided that, it would be cool to kind of, create more of an agent following and kind of share what we've done that's made us successful over the years as a company. And so we started, the 6-Figure Medicare Agent YouTube channel. And then we started the 6-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, which basically started out as just a place for me to be able to share my training videos, because all the other Facebook groups, they were like, you're sharing too much content. You're sharing too much. You're self-promoting in my group kind of thing. I'm like,
gotcha.
I'm like, well, I'm just going to make my own group so I don't have to, I don't have to answer to anybody. And that's kind of where it started. And now today we did that about January, February time period of this year. And today, as we talked in September, the group has about 1,300 agents from all over the country in it. The YouTube channel, in a very short amount of time, has about 500 subscribers at this point, and it's just kind of growing and growing and growing. And it's been a fun ride. So that's kind of where we are today.
That is really awesome. And it's so great that you're willing to share your knowledge. You're not just going to hoard it all to yourself and make all the money. You're willing to put some of that out there so that other agents can be better because of you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, when I was coming up, the only person that I really had to learn from was my dad and a few people that were connected to my dad, which were, let's face it, my dad was a very great agency builder. And he was a very good, fantastic insurance agent, but he knew how to build a business in the 90s and early 2000s, which was knocking on doors, cold calling, and that stuff definitely works. But I think if that's all you're doing in your business, I think there's a ceiling.
Right.
And so I always just, when I was starting out, I had this desire to kind of learn what other people were doing. Maybe people that were, maybe a little bit younger. Like my dad's on Medicare now, so my dad is, at this point, he's closer to being retired than probably being in the business at this point. And so I always, remember having that desire and kind of wishing that I had somebody that I could talk to and learn from and ask questions. And so I always wanted to kind of be that person for somebody that might be feeling the way that I felt early on. And a good friend of mine, Justin Brock, always says, you get what you give out. You get what you give, so the more you're willing to give, the more will come back on you tenfold down the road. So I'm a big believer in that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you touched on a bit of cold calling, helped you get to that six-figure Medicare agent. So do you still do any kind of prospecting on a regular basis?
Sorry, Celeste, the connection broke out a little bit. Can you ask me that one more time?
I was just asking, do you still do any prospecting on a regular basis?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I very much still write business myself. Outside of open enrollment, I probably write 15 to 30 new clients a month by my own pen. And so it's still definitely a major focus for me. I like writing business. I enjoy writing business. I know that in terms of profit margin for my business, I'm better off writing a policy myself than recruiting an agent.
Right.
Because the most clients will cause me less grief and headache than an agent will, just being honest with it. Agents need a lot of hand-holding, typically, a lot of nurturing, a lot of things. And let's face it, probably half of them will never write a policy. Not to say that's a good thing or bad thing. It's just kind of is what it is. And so we still have a very strong focus of writing business and producing. Sorry, say again?
I said it's the nature of the business.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, so yes, I still do actively write myself. It's a big focus of what we do. We do a lot of things though. We take on agents, in terms of downline. We sell courses to people that aren't contracted with us, but maybe want access to our online training platforms. And we write business. I've written probably about 4 or 5 books at this point, for both for beneficiaries. And then we just came out with one recently that's for agents. And so, if there's anything that I can do in the industry to kind of add a layer or a leg, if you will, to my business, I'm probably going to dip my fingers in it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me what a typical day of prospecting looks like for you. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, so I don't cold call anymore. I think I've graduated from cold calling at this point. I always say, and this is my opinion on cold calling, I think, it can be a very necessary evil, if you will, for agents. Now, for me personally, I was always a little bit on the strange side. I kind of enjoyed it, because you never know what will happen when you cold call. Like anything could happen. I mean, it's just such a roller coaster ride, if you will. But I don't cold call anymore. Just because I think cold calling is kind of a means to the end. I think it means to an end until the point you can kind of work your way out of it. For me, prospecting goes something like this. We do a lot of content marketing that brings in business, from the podcast to our main YouTube channel, to books we've written, to blogs, to running advertisements on Facebook and YouTube and other social media platforms. So those things bring in a lot of business. And so on a day-to-day basis, if I'm prospecting, I'm and we built up a strong referral network as well here locally. So like in the month of August, I think I wrote 20 new clients just from referrals.
Wow.
So there's a zero cost of acquisition on those 20 clients. And they came from referrals from other agents we work with that are like farmers agents, P&C agents, financial planners, and other clients. Now, when those things are slow, when those things aren't really bringing business in, We typically will fill in the holes with, some direct mail leads. We work with a company called Lead Heroes on telemarketing leads that we're pretty heavily invested in, and they basically are pre-qualified telemarketing leads that someone's already pre-qualified them before I even talk to them. And when that all fails, sometimes we'll have 300 to 500 aged leads just sitting around to dial. And so I'm a big believer in activity. I think activity solves everything in your business. And so I would rather have too many leads to work and too many things to get to than not enough.
Yeah. Because if you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, you're not bringing in business.
Right. 100%. And so that's kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis is, we try to keep multiple flows of lead flow coming at us at all times. And that's kind of become our focus at this point in the business. We want to kind of get business in every single possible way we can think of. And so that we're basically just kind of, putting attention in each side of things, calling leads when we have downtime, but when people are calling into the office, we're trying to take that call, book an appointment to have them come in, or if they're in another state, we're trying to get a sale.
Yeah. You never want to put all your eggs in one type of prospecting basket, because then you're missing out on a whole lot of other opportunities. So
Right.
A combination of methods and techniques will always gain you more than just cold calling or just emailing or just writing a book. Right.
100%. Like I don't mean to keep quoting Justin Brock, but he says so many good things. And I think he's spot on. He always says, and I learned this from him. He says that everything works a little bit, nothing works a lot.
Right. And it is spot on.
And so, I mean, I've very much adapted that into my own business to where we don't go all in with that one thing. We try to use everything we can at our disposal.
Okay. Yeah. It's really smart. It's business 101. Mm-hmm. All right. What advice would you give to someone who is brand new in Medicare sales?
Yeah. So here's what I teach, because, we work with a lot of agents that are just, newly licensed and, wide-eyed and just ready to go. Right. And they're just excited and they just, they want to have it all tomorrow. Right. Mm-hmm. They want to know everything tomorrow. They want to have, 1,000 clients tomorrow, and it's hard for them to kind of see the big picture and be like, hey, this is going to take some time. This is going to take years of hard work and discipline and dedication. But what I teach our new agents is this: you want to start out by doing one of two things. Now, I always encourage a new agent. I'm like, if you can stomach it, because it's not for everybody, but I do definitely believe that cold calling is a great way to grow as a salesperson. I believe I am who I am today as a salesperson because of the years I spent cold calling.
Okay.
And encountering the most difficult situations. I mean, and when I say cold calling, we were basically calling people 90 days before their birth month about Medicare supplements. And these were people that had not requested information from us. They were as cold calling can get. They were.
Yeah.
So some people say when they talk about cold calling, they're talking about they're calling a list of leads or something like that, and that's not cold calling to me. No. And so, I think calling. Yes, it's warm calling for sure. I mean, dialing is not the same across the board, and so, for me, I really do look back and kind of look at my journey and think, because when I started, I was a mediocre at best salesperson. I was nervous on the phone, like a lot of new agents are. I think the best way to kind of purge yourself of all those nerves and also to encounter every situation quick, fast, and in a hurry and have more experience is to cold call, because you're going to run into everything, and it's the best way to learn how to deal with the situation, but also take the nerves out of it. I mean, if you make 500 phone calls and then the next day you call 10 leads, it's going to feel like easy, like a breeze to call those 10 leads in comparison. And so I think cold calling is a great way. It's probably, in my personal opinion, I think it's a great way to kind of create nothing, create something from nothing.
Right.
But I do believe that, if that's all you're doing in your business, there's a ceiling to it, but I think you can learn a lot from it. I also tell new agents that you need to be investing where you can into your business, whether it be buying leads or, doing direct mail or whatever it is. And I also tell agents that because a lot of new agents will come into the business and they'll want to, and I'm sure you've seen this a lot, Celeste, with what you guys do. You deal with agents on a day-to-day basis, I'm sure. You probably see a lot of agents that just got licensed and they want to start running Facebook ads and be a Facebook ads master or something
Right.
along those lines, which that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can only speak for myself. It took me probably 10 plus months to really feel like I knew what I was doing to run a Facebook ad. I spent a lot of money unsuccessfully.
Yep.
And, I personally, and I've also seen agents that, I tell them it takes time to learn this stuff. So they'll dedicate their entire workday to trying to learn this stuff. And that's not what you want to do either. And so what you want to be doing is you want to start building that business now. You want to start getting clients now and start bringing in that revenue to your agency now. And in your free time, in the evenings, you study Facebook ads, you study marketing, you try to learn how to build that stuff as you go on the side, but it should not be what you're doing, during prime hours of the day. I think you should be cold calling, buying leads, working leads, doing direct mail. But then I think at some point you got to learn how to add these other things to it and become more of a marketer, because I think that's how you can become more of an efficient business owner, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so I tell agents that, you should have a 3 to 5 year plan. I think in the first 2 to 3 years, you should be cold calling, buying leads, knocking on doors. This is going to teach you how to handle things out in the field, but in your downtime, when you don't have anything to do, when you're watching TV, turn the TV off and, go through a YouTube video on how to do Facebook ads and try to learn, and slowly integrate that into what you're doing.
Yeah, that constant learning. You have to grow. So I'm going to get a little more personal here.
Absolutely.
So how do you manage running a Medicare business, being a dad, a husband, running your podcast, your business, your household, all at the same time?
I love that question because it's something that people wonder about me a lot. I think, that from what it seems like, I have people ask me, they're like, how do you do this? Like, how do you do it? And I think there's two things. Number one, I have a great support team. My wife is incredibly patient and understanding, and she is my biggest fan. I mean, if I've worked 12 hours and I have a sales call I need to get on the 13th hour, she misses me. She wants to see me. She wants to spend time with me, but she understands priority is priority, and so we're on the same page.
That's good.
I think that helps a lot. And then, I have people that work for me that take a lot of the load off. I think when you get to a point in your business where you start growing, I think having that staff and that support team in terms of growing your team is humongous, and so, having, we have 2 girls here in our office that help me out tremendously. And they handle, customer service for our clients. They'll do an incredible amount of things behind the scenes that people don't see that help me get a lot more done in a lot faster of a time period. And so, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think the other thing is, I'm incredibly dedicated to what I do. And so I work a lot of hours. I think outside of AEP this year, I probably have worked 60 to 80 hours every week, outside of AEP. And so during AEP, that's probably going to go up.
Yeah.
And so I work a lot. I'm very dedicated to what I do. And if I start a project, whether it be a podcast, a YouTube channel, I kind of feel like an obligation to kind of remain consistent with it.
Right.
I don't like to dabble in things. I don't like to try things out. I like to, be like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm good for 200 episodes. I'm not going to stop till I have 200 episodes or something like that. And so, I think anything worth doing is worth, doing well. And I think I think one thing that I'm good at, I'm not good at everything. There's a lot of things I'm not good at. And so I think our staff here helps me out with that stuff where my faults are. But I think one thing I am good at is managing my time. I think that's one thing I've really learned how to do. I have a very, 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 very detailed calendar. And so my calendar runs my entire life. If something's in my calendar, I'm going to be there and I'm going to do it. I'm going to show up. If something's not on my calendar, it's a little tougher,
Yeah.
And so my wife and my staff, they all understand that. They know that if they want me to be somewhere, we need to get it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the main two things.
Awesome. Yeah, it's important, as someone who's being pulled in 20 different directions every minute of the day, that, sticking to a calendar is fantastic, but the integrity of sticking to that calendar is paramount as well.
100%. Like, and in my early days, I would have situations where like my car broke down and I needed to be somewhere for something. I'd take an Uber or something like that. Like I was always there, nothing really stopped me from making sure that I was fulfilling a task in my calendar. And that's something that I've been very committed to. And I think that's something that's really grown that muscle in me, if you will, so that toughness to be able to kind of, make sure that if I made a commitment to do something, I'm going to follow through.
That's perfect. It's fantastic. Any last piece of advice for our Medicare agent viewers?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would say number one, Medicare is not a get rich quick business. Not to say that I don't think there's that many people out there that think that it is. I think a lot of people understand that, but I think a lot of people come in and they're expecting to make six figures in their first year. I know I might get some flack for saying this, but like I probably know 5 people that I can say with a full, 5 people or less that I can off the top of my head that I know with 100% certainty made $100,000 their first year as a Medicare agent. It's very, very hard to do. It's the 0.0001% that do it. I always tell agents, this needs to be a 3 to 5 year business plan for you. It's not a get rich quick business. It's a get rich for sure business if you stick with it. Like my dad's a great example. My dad's been a successful agent for a long time. I've seen my dad show me commission statements where he's been getting paid on a client since like 1997 or something like that, and that's what this business is. If you do a good job for your clients, if you do right by them, they will be your clients for life. And not only will they be your clients for life, they're going to talk about you to their neighbors, to people at their church, to their sister, to their spouse, whatever the case might be. And so I think if you can just really put your head down for 5 years, maybe a decade, you don't have to worry about money for the rest of your life, as long as Medicare remains a thing, right? I mean, not to say, no one has a crystal ball, but I don't see the business going anywhere anytime soon. And I think it's a great opportunity. I think there's more opportunity today now than ever because of the spike in Medicare business we're going to see in the next decade. And so I just think, come in with realistic expectations, come in understanding that, it's a step-by-step thing. It's not something where you come in and you know everything and all of a sudden you have $300,000 a year in renewals coming in or something like that. You need to take it one step at a time, and you can't cheat that process.
Yeah, so it's the residuals that really bring in your wealth, and in order to get those residuals, you have to build those relationships.
Yes. 100%. Like, the insurance business, I mean, this, Celeste, the insurance business is a people business. It's a relationship business. I think every business is probably a relationship business, really, if you think about it, or most of them. But in my personal opinion, of importance. But if you're not taking care of your existing clients and they're leaving as quickly as you get them, if your business is like a revolving door, you're going to basically be like a hamster on a wheel. And you need to retain business and get new business. And I think once you can kind of figure both of those two things out at a high level, that's when you got something.
Indeed. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. Give us your website, your podcast, how to get a hold of you, how to get your books, all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for that, Celeste. So anybody that, so my podcast is mainly for Medicare beneficiaries, but we do have a pretty large agent audience just because, there's a lot of agents out there like me that just like to geek out on Medicare. And so if you're one of those people, it's called the Everything Medicare Podcast. It can be found anywhere that podcasts are listened to: Apple, Stitcher, Google Cast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, YouTube. I mean, anywhere you can think of, you can probably find it pretty easily. If you're an agent and you're not in our private Facebook group, we'd love to have you. It's called Six Figure Medicare Agent. It's just a private Facebook group. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel called Six Figure Medicare Agent that puts out weekly trainings for agents. And those are probably the best places to find me. Any books that we have the newest book we have out right now is called How to Become a Six Figure Medicare Agent: My Success Principles. That's been out 5 days, 6 days, something like that. We just got it done. Like, it was my goal to get it done before AEP, and we did it. So I was very happy about that. You can find that on Amazon. Just type in Christian Brindle, you'll find it, along with any other books that we've written. And so those are probably the best places to connect with me. And we'd love to see you there. Excellent.
All right. Viewers, reach out to Christian, listen to his podcast, go take a look at ProspectBoss.com, and we'll see you next time.